One of the most imposing lineups of the weekend will remain without any doubt that of Formula One from 1947 to 1960. 26 different cars, 8 manufacturers, among which Maseratis present in force with 11 cars. A very eclectic range of cars, from the Maserati 250F to the tiny Cisitalia and Gordini. And the American Duncan Dayton is the quickest off the line, and he settles into the lead with his Lotus 16. He put in second fastest time in qualifying behind the Spanish driver Joaquin Falk, driving an identical car. Coming around the casino, the two Lotuses form the first group in the lead. They precede by a short distance a larger group which, after less than one lap, is now stretching into what looks like a long, multicolored snake. A group that remains still a long way off striking distance, though, of the two men who are in the lead. The evocative force of these racing cars is very large, perhaps because they evoke a difficult period not only for motor racing. Many of them testify to the savage will to race, while at the same time the war had left the world in a crisis. No nostalgia in the lead, where the two Lotuses are neck and neck, two Type 16s from 1959 that ran with great drivers like Innes Ireland and Graham Hill. In the second passage through Saint-Avant, Falk overtakes Dayton, but the game is far from over, and on the Monegasque roulette table, the dramas will still be numerous. These two Lotuses running very tightly. It's the fight in the name of Colin Chapman in his early years. Behind the fight is no less painless. In the chicane, a Maserati 250F of the American Tom Price touches that of Michael Hinderer, and for Price, it's all over. As the classifications posted on the screen, with Falk in the lead, Dayton slips back through into first place. Situation is so undecided that it becomes difficult to know who's leading the dance. This tends to dope the hopes of Dayton. It's the tenacious American who settles back into the lead. In the pack, there are no less than 7 Maserati 250Fs, among which we find the number 10 of Thomas Becher, who can be recognized thanks to the peculiar shape of the nose. Leaders are still in a tight battle for victory, often wheel to wheel. The two Lotuses are playing on the difficulties of the circuit, proving the genius of their creator. Another genius manufacturer, Amedeo Gordini, must sadly contemplate the retirement of his Type 2 from 1946. Third place now is in the hands of Thomas Becher, president of Bugatti, but a great supporter of Maserati. He's driving car number 10, the last produced specimen of the 250F. Its nose section is separated into 2 parts, and its principal historic characteristic is that it was driven by the great Fangio in 1958. Pointless to say anything more. In fourth position, the English Martin Stretton driving a Ferrari 555 Super Squalo from 1955. In that year, May 22nd, Paul Frere raced the car for the first time in Monaco. He finished 8th in the Grand Prix. Ferrari gave up the development of this model in the preference of the D50 single-seater built by Lancia, which allowed Fangio to win the World Championship in 1956. The leader, Dayton, finds himself in the wheels of some of the backmarkers and encounters some difficulties getting through and around them. This assists in the return of Falk. Dayton, who had just put in the best lap in the race, now has to keep a close eye on Falk, who's back in his rearview mirrors. In the closing stages of this race, only 8 cars are in the same lap, which demonstrates the pace imposed by the leaders. The winner is the American Duncan Dayton, whose average crosses the 100 km/h barrier. Just 1.5 seconds behind, the Spanish driver Joaquin Falk finishes second. The winner who doesn't forget his mechanics after the finish.
It was these guys right here that made me win it. The crew who prepared the car. When the car is good, you can do anything.